Well, I don't know. First of all, it will be a challenge to be successful in the European elections. I think it is very important to remind people, first of all, that they go to vote, that they vote democratically, that they think which party stands for security, freedom, liberty, tolerance. I mean, all the EU values, which are the fundamentals of the European Union and which really make up our life here. And so I think it is important to mobilize people, that they go to vote, that we get a broad majority here for, let's say, the progressive forces, and then we can see what we do out of that. How much we can integrate further the economy, security sector, also domestic issues. I mean, at the moment it is rather complicated, as you can see, with the ammunition for Ukraine, that each and every member state has its national interest and is not really willing to contribute in a way which would be needed for Ukraine to come up with a swift supply, with a quick reaction. And so I think here we need more political will to further integrate in this topic. Well, it depends very much on the people who are actually then members of this house, of the European Parliament. And if we have a strong, I would say, group of the right wings, of those who work closely with Russia, sometimes paid by Russia, you can, some of them call Russian agent, and they're really toxic in the debates. They're really lobbying against our support for Ukraine. Then it would be more difficult. I wouldn't say that we do not have a majority. I mean, you have seen yesterday with the Ukraine facility, there were only a couple of votes against and a couple of abstentions, but there is still a very broad majority in support for Ukraine. That is important. This might shift a bit, but I would still say, and of course I would hope, that the majority of the people here in the European Parliament will stay in full solidarity and will be ready to fight for Ukraine. Well, I mean, this question did not just come up now. I think that even Obama started to remind us that we need to step up, that we need to increase our budget and defense, our defense and military budget. But so far, nobody ever thought that the US could mean this hint or this advice, and this would have any political consequences. Now, with the danger of Trump being re-elected, everyone realized, okay, we really have to invest more. We really have to become more resilient. I wouldn't say that we could in any way compensate what US had secured us or what US had provided in terms of security in the last decades. But I guess that the awareness for improving this hard security has significantly increased. I mean, Russia shows every day in Ukraine how brutal, how cruel, how dehuman they are on the ground. It's very easy for people here in the European Union to watch, to witness this. It's easy to talk to Ukrainians, to hear from the first hand and the first source what they do to civilians, how they torture people, civilians, how they rape people, what kind of war criminals those troops are. And I mean, it's pretty obvious that Vladimir Putin, I mean, in his daily speeches, tries to scare also countries in the European Union, but also, of course, in the NATO alliance. And everyone must be aware that Ukraine is maybe not the last stop, and maybe he will go further in a hybrid way, in a military way, in a different way. He will attack those member states. And I guess, yes, we should be ready. The best way to get ready is to get prepared and to deter him, to contain Russia. That is, if you do not want to have war, get ready for war, because peace cannot taken for granted. The biggest obstacle here is that we do not have enough competences at the moment for this defense position. But in general, to give a bigger focus, to give more visibility, to have a better point of coordination, of cooperation in this field, I think would be super important. As we have seen during Corona crisis, that EU was able to organize joint procurement has shown that actually if there is a political will, if there is a will for pragmatism, the EU can organize its structures in a different way. And I think something similar should be organized for procurement of weapons, for joint delivery to Ukraine and so on. And here maybe we need more a commissioner for ammunition than for defense. But also, I would say that is maybe more a question of rhetorics than on substance. In general, I do understand why people think this would make sense. So far, that hasn't been a debate at all here in Strasbourg or in Brussels or in any capital. Why? Distracting from the real problems. What we have now is operational problems on the ground in Ukraine. We have not enough weapons, we have not enough capacities, we have not enough cooperation, we have not enough trainings and so on. And then we start a debate about potential deployment of soldiers on the ground in Ukraine. I think let's deal with the problems we face now and then start a debate how we can, for the long-term security in Ukraine, guarantee this. Would this be NATO? Would this be individual security guarantees? How would those security guarantees be sustained, and who would be ready to send troops and so on. But at the moment, there is no discussion. It's a very untimely discussion. It's not helpful. I think we have to communicate first on what is necessary now. Let's work on this and don't distract us from the problems which we face in Ukraine now. I think Ukraine asked for this for quite some time. And the debate which is going on, especially in Berlin, amongst different members of the German government, are not helpful because it weakens our position. The explanation which our Chancellor has been announced 2 days ago were also not helpful because this is simply not true. We have given the Taurus missiles to South Korea, to Spain, without deploying German soldiers there. So this is simply an excuse. Some other people tell you other explanations. So they always look for new excuses. The real reason, and that is the problem, we can only speculate. But as I said, as long as we don't know the real explanation, the real motivation, the real reason, it is very hard for us to see that Ukraine needs it. We have it today in our resolution on Ukraine. We included Taurus, Storm Shadows, Scalp, all the European long-term missiles. But why in the German context, in the German discourse, the Chancellor is so hard against this delivery, I can't tell you. And that is the problem. That, of course, opens the door for a lot of speculation and makes it very difficult for Ukraine to act. Because it would help to cut off the supply chains, to cut off some infrastructure on Crimea and so on. And if the Chancellor doesn't want this, that is, let's say, at least very frustrating and very much to dispute amongst the partners in the European Union. No, of course, I think the priority is still there. And if you listen to most of the colleagues here, or also in the capitals and the parliaments, they still, rhetorically, they're very close. It's just what they do in practice, how much they really force extra hours in the defense industry. Have we seen that? I doubt it. But Vladimir Putin is krugelsochny, well, 24/7. He let his people work. Only in the defense sector, 3 million people work in Russia. And here, of course, you see here and there new production capacities are reopened. But is that really the speed, the velocity we need? I think we need more. And we need more commitment from also the German side. Well, I think we talk also about this for almost 2 years. Shortly after the full invasion of Russia to Ukraine began, we thought about we can use this confiscated money, the real estate, the Russian owned, houses and so on. But it is obviously not so easy to find a legal instrument which would sufficiently protect everyone else in the European Union and could not be abused by others. And so what I've heard, there's a lot of political will to move forward, but not enough creativity and not enough legal fine-tuning to come up with a proposal where all member states could agree on. And so I think that some member states have already established a mechanism, but that is not agreeable for all the others. So it's very unfortunate, that's absolutely true. But I think in general, we need to find the money either in the budget or we need to activate the companies, industries, and really find people who are willing to invest in Ukraine in the long term for the reconstruction.